Parashat Mishpatim. To what extent is compassion an issue in Jewish law? When judges come to decide, are they supposed to decide on the basis of the law itself, the legalisms, the various passages in the Talmud? Or is there a kind of meta-halacha which speaks of compassion? Parashat Mishpatim is an entire portion of the Torah that talks about statutes and laws, and of every nature, civil mostly, marital, ritual, but in the main, questions of personal issues, questions of proper justice on every level. And in the midst of all of those laws, right before the law which condemns idolatry, after the law that condemns idolatry, and right before the law that speaks about lending, and you aren't allowed to lend money and charge interest for the money. Right in the middle, the Bible says, V'ger lo toneh, chapter 22 in the book of Exodus, verse 20, you shall not oppress the stranger, the other, Ki geirim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim, because you were strangers, you were others in the land of Egypt. And then, in very striking language, non-legalistic language, Kol almana v'yatom lo ta'anun. You may not oppress a widow or an orphan. Imanei ta'aneoto, if you will surely oppress her, or him, ki im tza'ok yitz'ak elai, if he or she will only cry out to me, says God, shamoa eshma tza'akato, I will certainly hear their cry. V'chara api, and I will become angry. V'harakti etchem b'chorev, and I'm going to kill you with a sword. You, the judges who oppressed the widows and the orphans. V'hayu neshechem almanot, and your wives will become widows. Uvnechem yetomim, and your children orphans. How do you look at Jewish law? Is it mathematics 613? And there's a logic of a legal system, and you must go in accordance with that logic? And generally speaking, you turn to the more stringent opinion? Or is it different? Do we have a Torah of laws that must be studied, read, resolved? Or is it more a law that deals with human beings and human issues, and therefore above everything else must come compassion? It's very clear from the language here that when you're dealing with widows and orphans, when you're dealing with a stranger and the other, when you're dealing with people who are the weaker vessels, the most important thing is compassion. And when you're dealing with such an individual, you dare not give a halachic decision based upon what's written in the book. no matter how sacred the book may be. You must give a halachic decision which takes into account the book, but also takes into account the human being standing before you. Women who are in need of divorce are in a very bad position. There are solutions. Within the Talmud, many, many solutions. 5 times when the husband acted improperly, the religious court abrogated the marriage in order to free the woman. Maimonides says it very well. Our women cannot be allowed to become enslaved by their husbands, because Judaism wants all slaves to become free. We must find solutions to these problems. A very great justice, Dayan in Israel, Rav Dichovsky, took early retirement because he felt that most of his fellow judges were not truly judging in accordance with compassion. That they didn't look in the eyes of the woman who was seeking the divorce. They did not see her pain. We must certainly look at the book, but most importantly, we must look at the human being who is going to be affected by the judgment, which will eventually become part of the book. And God is a God of compassion. And that's first and foremost what He expects of us. Shabbat Shalom.